Okay, part two. We're going to use EJS, which is like a JavaScript templating engine. Um, so it's not too difficult to use, but I'm just going to show you a couple things. So in the last sample, when we were running our website, which is still running, you can see here's my get request for the index file. So remember that this slash means root directory, which is up here, root directory. So this is just sending back welcome to my website. But I don't want to just send back welcome to my website. I want to have a separate file that actually sends back HTML instead of editing stuff in here because I don't want to make my website in kind of this text file. So what we do is we create a new directory and we call it views. Okay, and this is part of the MVC paradigm, which you guys will get into later. We kind of touched on that, but right now we can just know that they're called views. So I'm going to make a view called index.ejs. Okay, and I'm going to bring this over to my Visual Studio. And instead of having this welcome to my awesome website, ooh, the H1 tag's not close. I'm going to take this out and I'm going to put it in my index. And we'll just change this to say welcome to my first EJS view, just so we know that we're in here. And instead of returning that HTML text, we're going to use this thing called render, just like rendering a video game, but we're going to render the index file. Okay? But we have to tell our program that we want to use EJS as the engine or our rendering engine. So what we have to do is just set up a few items. This is on slide 19. So we're going to do set views path to join. And again, I went into more detail. I know I keep saying it, but I like when you guys are in my lectures instead of this video where I'm just talking to myself. EJS. And then public is our folder. So we'll get into what public means later, but it's basically where images and stuff like this are stored. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so if we've done this correctly, which I think we have to restart our web server because we made changes to it. So Control-C should shut that down. Then we'll just use node or index.js again. Notice if I use the up arrows on my keyboard, you can actually go through all the commands that you used to do. So if I just press up, I should be able to run my server again. Well, it looks like I have an error. I missed a underscore in dir. That's what the error said right here. So I'll try it again. Okay, it looks like we're running. So now if I refresh my page, if I've done everything right, you should see this welcome to my first EJS view, which will actually take the data outside of index.ejs. Now, if you recall, let's say I want to have a second web page, say called FAQ or contact, then we would have to modify our route and also the file that it's serving. So I'm going to say I want to use the route contact and serve the file contact. So that means when I go to this website, localhost/contact, and you're not going to see anything here. You'll see an error because I haven't made the file. It says cannot get contact, right? Oops, actually, hold on. I got to restart the web server. This should say, yeah, failed to look up view contact in views directory, blah, 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 because I didn't create a contact view. So I'm going to do that now. Contact.ejs. And I'm going to drop it up here. Okay. And we'll just put an H1 in here saying contact. Cool. So if I refresh this page now, because that exists. There's my contact page. If I go back to the index, there's my index page. So that's getting to part of templating. Now, if you remember, let me just get a site here. Hold on a second. If you remember, every time we started our old web pages, we'd have a blank web page, so like a blank HTML page. So I'm going to grab one from online GitHub or something like this, and I'll paste it into my index file, which is index.ejs, and I'll just clean this up a little bit because we don't need this stuff right now. Right, so this should look fairly familiar. And imagine I had, my H1 tag here that said index, and this becomes a valid web page. And to get my contact page to be valid, I'd have to do the same thing and make this contact. And let's pretend, for example, I have a name for my website, and I'm going to call it, Harry's website. And I want this on every page. So, I'll just take this Harry's website, paste it over to contact name, change my H2 tag. So when I refresh my page, I'll get a valid website, and it has my logo or whatever you want to call it at the top of the screen. Now, let's say, for example, Microsoft came and bought my website, and they changed the name to Microsoft's website. So they can change it in the index page, no problem. Right? And let's say I go to the contact page and it still says Harry's website, so I'd have to go there. Now imagine I had 10,000 of these pages, right? Well, that's not a very convenient way to go about changing this. So what people have came up with is this template kind of engine, which we're already kind of using, but we're going to make files so that we can break our website up into chunks. So I'm going to make a new file called header. And usually if I have a partial web page, I use an underscore just to turn it, or like to basically notify me that it's a partial. And sometimes I'll just call it partial, meaning it's not a completed page, but it's actually part of a page. You don't have to do this. It's just my naming conventions. I'm also going to make a footer. Okay, and then I'm going to drag both these files into Visual Studio. And in the header, I'm actually going to take this entire head of my document, okay? And I'm going to paste it into here. And then the footer, I'm going to take the footer portion. Actually, I forgot this name. And I'll take the footer portion for the next part and paste it into footer. Now instead, here's my index file. Instead of having, excuse me. Here's my template. 1 second. Yeah, sorry. Instead of having all of the HTML code, I'm going to write some script that will include my header file. Okay. And then I'm going to write some code that will include my footer. So now what should happen is I can write my index page in here, but the header and the footer will be derived from these other files. The good thing about that is as the follows. So if I change my contact page to this format, and I changed the bottom part to it, the cool thing is if I wanted to change, say, the logo or the colors or whatever on all of these pages, I can just open my header file and, let's say I bought my website back off Microsoft. Now I only have to edit one page and it edits them all. Cool. So that's basically it. That's how to do these this templating system. I will see you guys in class.